Hello and welcome to episode 59 of Throwin Elbows. I'm Dan Doherty, the senior editor of KHSI Press. Heath is one of our star writers, a star podcaster, and a two-times picks champion as well. This is episode 59 of Throwin Elbows, where we don't have the horses in the back, but that song still slaps, though.
Jesus Christ. This is becoming the best and simultaneously worst part of our show every fucking week. Like I work hard, I make an outline, I format it each week, I find stuff for us to talk about, and I'm especially in a bummer mood today because of what we'll be talking about. And that's how you're gonna start this thing.
I mean,
that's what you. Jesus Christ.
You put all the outline together and everything. I just shit all over it. That's how it goes in the beginning. I wish there were like advanced stats of how many people drop off after I make the pop culture reference at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, and like we have good shit this episode. Like it's a shame. Like they're missing out. Like we have some good stuff, and they're already gone. So So thanks for that.
You can catch our written work on KHSIPress.com, on Twitter at Throwin Elbows, and iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher, Throwin Elbows MMA. This week, we will not be seeing TJ Dillashaw in the octagon for quite a while. A couple of UFC main events have been shaken up, and 2 interim title fights are heading our way this weekend. We also have a couple interviews from Bellator 222 and the return of a classic segment. A lot of stuff this week, but first, WrestleMania, I guess. Heath, tell us what happened.
What do you didn't watch? What do you mean?
I don't
Come on, Danny. It was fun. I enjoyed it. It was way too long. It lasted so long. I think it started at 2 and ended at like 9:30. It was a lot. But the MMA relevant stuff, Brock and Ronda both lost. So Brock is now free to do whatever. It was actually pretty interesting. He was kind of listed, I think initially it was looking like it was going to be the third to last match on the card. And as soon as the main card portion of it started, Paul Heyman, Brock's advocate, came out and said, we're not waiting. We're doing this now where, he can do the match and then he can go to Las Vegas where he is ultimately appreciated or something like that. And I was like, oh, it's so on the nose, all the UFC points. So he went out there and lost and he's done. And then Ronda also lost. So I don't think we'll be seeing Ronda back in the octagon soon, but no. I think the road is now paved for Brock to return, and it's looking like late summer, which we'll get to a little bit later. Some reports and rumors about when he'll be back. But yeah, they both lost, and it was great. It was fun. You missed out, Danny. Next year.
But I heard that something went wrong at the end of the Ronda match. Was that? It sucked. They messed up the finish. And it's hard to tell if it was Ronda's fault or the ref's fault or both or what exactly happened. But like, it was kind of flat. Like there was a lot of things. There was a lot of hype and it was cool and I still enjoyed it. But it went on last and it was so late. Like no matter how excited you are, you're feeling match fatigue by the time you've watched 15 other ones and it's 9:30 at least where I'm at 9:30 on a Sunday night, and they're at the stadium at MetLife. The match went on at midnight. Like, we complain about all this stuff with the UFC all the time, and WrestleMania did it too. So, the crowd was pretty flat for it and pretty tired, and also, they messed up the finish a little bit. But in the end, the right person won, and it all worked out. But it's wrestling. It's one of those things where it's like, they can fix it in this week's episode. They can do something to make it better. Like, it's not like the UFC where I actually get mad about it. Vince can just rewrite whatever he wants to do. But that's okay. I guess that's true. Yeah, you can just write that out and make the corrections in post.
Yeah. And well, in MMA, the things that Dana has to deal with, like the things he's dealing with today.
There's no 3-month repercussions in wrestling.
No, well, and he can't just write TJ Dillashaw back into the show. He's gone. So
before we talk about that, though, we are going to bring back an old segment. Who am I? So Heath, this is yours. So take it away.
Yeah, this is something we did at like the very beginning of the show when we started, and then it disappeared because it became too much work for me to do on a weekly basis. And
I didn't want too popular.
And that was another thing. Like the sheer amount of social media interaction and emails we would get on the Who Am I segment alone. That and our logo not having an elbow in it were kind of the two big two big things that happened for us in our first run.
We fixed one of those things.
Yeah. And but yeah, since we came back, I was looking for something to add to the outline that you like to just shit all over with your ridiculous intros. But we meant to do this a couple weeks ago, but it's when we ended up having like the 2.5 hour long episode, and so it was just going to be a lot. So but we're doing it now because this week there wasn't a recap to do, and so this will fill that spot. And I'll try to bring it back fairly often. I liked my other one a little bit better than this one, but I think you'll like this one. It's Who Am I? There's one category. I give Danny 3 clues, and he tries to guess who I am. Most of the time, I try and screw with him or get it wrong, but I'm really trying to stump him. I'm pretty sure in the original incarnation that you were winning. I count you getting it right as a point and me stumping you as a point, but I'm pretty sure you were beating me. So let's see how you do today. The topic: fighters that have fought both Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier. Is it Poirier?
Okay.
Poirier?
Poirier. I go with a Y pronunciation on that.
I don't know, I've never heard him say his name, but we need to get that figured out. But fighters that have fought both of them obviously spent a long time in the featherweight division, Max at lightweight, and a lot of guys have fluctuated between those two divisions, and they've both been around for a good long while. So I thought it would be fun to point this out. So no Wikipedia, no cheating. Danny, you have a little bit of integrity. You have a couple shreds left, so I trust you in this.
I promise I do not use Wikipedia on these segments, and I never did.
We'll see. We'll see about that.
Okay.
All right. So fighters that have fought both Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier. This is in the UFC, mind you, because I guess I didn't check the other shit, but I'm assuming they didn't. Already ruining it. Fighter number 1. I fought Max and Dustin 11 months apart. I was finished in the 3rd round by both Holloway and Poirier. And my last fight came at welterweight.
That would be Anthony Pettis.
That is Anthony Showtime Pettis.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't realize the thing that surprised me when I was looking at that as one of the guys was that he fought them so close together. I didn't feel like that. And the whole Max thing, like the trip down to featherweight seems like it didn't even happen. I mean, it did, and it was bad. But, yeah, that was a good one. See, that was a easy one. I knew you'd get that one. The last fought at welterweight clue was good. But this next one might be a little bit tougher. I fought both Holloway and Poirier at featherweight. I had a 1-1 record against them. And my last career win came against Artem Lobov. Who am I?
I believe that would be Cub Swanson.
It is. Yes, Cub Swanson 1-1 against Holloway and Poirier. And, let's see. He lost to Max and beat Dustin. And then it's kind of gone on a little bit of a cold streak of late. That win against Lobov was that main event. Was that like UFC Nashville?
Nashville. Yeah.
In April of 2017. So it's been a little while for Swanson. I think he's getting Shane Burgos next. I think was the fight they just announced. That'll be fun. All right, 2 for 2, Danny. God damn it. So last one. I need to get worse clues. That's what I always think, that I need to be nicer to you, and then the show comes, and that's what I'm remembering now, is that I would always make it too easy for you. Here's a good one.
We'll see what happens next time. Yeah.
All right, last one to go 3 for 3. The return of Who Am I? I competed on The Ultimate Fighter Season 14. 2 of my last 3 career MMA bouts came against Holloway and Poirier, and I retired from MMA in 2015.
Oh, boy. Okay, this one is a little tricky.
Quit looking at your phone, you fucking cheater.
No, can you repeat the
now
hints?
You're stalling. Jesus Christ. This is another, and now it's all coming back to me.
Ultimate Fighter 14 was the one that Dodson won, right? Dodson and Brandao?
No, I believe it was the one Bisping Mayhem Miller.
Yeah, that's Dodson and Brandao. They won.
Oh, is that? Oh, okay. Oh, I thought you meant who the coaches were. See, now this is another thing. Now I need to start giving you fucked up clues and hints and sending you in the wrong direction. Yeah.
Okay, so retired in 2015. Though that's a quick retirement, because that season wasn't too long before that. Oh man! And 2 of his last 3 fights were against
Max and Dustin. Do you want to know who his last fight was? Here's another one. I can give you an extra hint.
Give him that 4th hint. Yeah.
Last career fight was to our boy Sam Cecilia, who knocked him the fuck out.
Oh.
Oh, here's another. Oh, I guess that makes sense.
I think you might have me here.
Okay,
you might have me here.
Here's a little bit of a. There's multiple hints in this. His last 2 fights came in Stockholm, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason he would be fighting in Stockholm.
Akira Kurosani, huh?
There you go.
Wow. Okay, Akira Kurosani.
I'm taking the point for that because you got fucking like.
Yeah, you got the point
clues.
for that.
But
yeah.
Yeah, Akira Kurosani.
I knew you were gonna really throw me for a loop on the last one.
Well, when I was looking at him, I was like, okay, well, I got 3 because I was wondering when I was thinking about the segment, I was like, I wonder how many people have done that. And then the fact that there was 3, I was like, oh, this has to be a Who Am I segment because I'm working on an article about Dustin Poirier coming out this week at Cage Side Press. But yeah, Akira Kurosani was the one where I was like, that one I might be able to stump him. I figured you'd get the other 2, but I'm glad that one got you. It only
took me 5 hints to get Akira Kurosani, so I'll take that.
There we go. Who Am I is back, y'all. I like it. That was good. We'll definitely have to bring that back the next time we have kind of a slow episode, and it's a lot more fun than what we're about to talk about. God damn it.
I will say, I honestly do not remember him fighting Max Holloway, but now we got to talk about the fun stuff. TJ Dillashaw has been suspended for 2 years by USADA. That's right, 2 years. And he'll be eligible to fight again in January 2021. That's a long time from now. And he tested positive for EPOh. That's only injectable. You can't really mess that up with tainted supplements and whatever. You have to inject it. That's how it goes. He's the second fighter to pop for it in the USADA era, and that is Gleison Tebow is the other one. And Chael popped for it pre-USADA. And I'm also pretty sure that Ali Bagautinov.
Yeah, that was the other name.
Popped for it too. Yeah. And with that being said, this is his prime, and he was the champion not too long ago, or I mean, he still was the champion until he relinquished the belt. So he's losing 2 years of his best years, and really, does he come back and compete at a high level again after this?
It's so, I feel like this is all, like, obviously we've known that he's in trouble for a while, but it happening like this, to me, it just kind of changes my personal feelings, because this is when I've not made it a secret. I'm a Dillashaw homer. But it's hard to envision, like, as much as he's in his prime and he looked great, he's been in a lot of fights, taking 2 years off. He's 33. He's going to be 35 when he comes back. And MMA is continually, a young guy's game, especially in those smaller weight classes, it seems like. And that division is as loaded as there is. Like, that top 10 is full of super, super fun matchups. And there's a bunch of them that got announced that we'll get to in a little bit, of guys that even now have could get a chance to beat Dillashaw, and in 2 years they're only going to get better. So I don't know. It's hard to envision him coming back and being a champ again. Maybe we see kind of like a Chad Mendes thing, where he comes back and looks pretty good, but just doesn't have, it anymore, something like that. Yeah. So, I'm just really sad that we're not going to see him fight for 2 years. And the thing about it is, like, I can't be sad about it and, like, bummed that, so, like, he did this to himself. Like, that's the crappy thing. And as much as I want to hate on Garbrandt and the Team Alpha Male guys, they're very much Kermit sipping the tea right now. I think your boy Garbrandt tweeted something out like that.
My boy.
Yeah. Your favorite.
Okay.
I think he tweeted something out like that a little bit ago, and then obviously he retweeted his thing about even, like, mentioning EPOh like a year ago. So it specifically. So it's one of those things. This quote from Jeff Nowitzki, who with ESPN, this kind of summed it up for me in a way that made me just feel really bad. It made me feel kind of dirty myself for, like, it's like, I feel like kind of stupid, like I got fooled, because who knows how long he was doing it. And Nowitzki said he was familiar with it from his days investigating professional cycling, and this quote from the ESPN article just kind of got me. It's a very effective substance. It's not a substance you find in contaminated supplements. It's injectable only. You have to know what you're doing when it enters your system. On a scale of seriousness and anti-doping, it's up near the top. The gall of someone, like it... The gall of someone to do something like that in the USADA era is pretty... Like obviously he was getting away with it for a while potentially. Maybe not obviously, but there's the potential for that. But to think that he could do it, I don't know. It's just a certain level of arrogance and ego that you kind of have to have when you're a fighter. And we definitely saw it on Dillashaw in the past. But I didn't think it would go that far. And so I don't know. I always knew he was kind of a douche, but I didn't think he was a cheater, kind of a thing. So yeah, it bums me out. And it's hard to envision him coming back and being at the very top of his game. So I guess we'll see. But yeah, what a crazy year. What a for him when he began the year, what he was looking at to where he's looking at, just a few months later. Kind of a crazy ride.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it makes you wonder how long was he doing this and how long did he get away with it. That was one of the things that was brought up when Anderson Silva popped. Like how long in his career was he using? Eventually Anderson Silva got out of that stigma and then is still fighting today. And Dillashaw, though, it's like you have that. You're wondering about that, and you also have Cody Garbrandt, who's been saying and hinting at TJ using performance-enhancing drugs for a long time. I mean, there was a whole classic line about how he showed Team Alpha Man how to use drugs, and that tweet that you mentioned where he specifically outs him for using EPOh, and that was kind of just ignored because he just thinks it's Cody Garbrandt trash-talking his ex-teammate, and, I mean, looks like Cody was right this whole time, so...
I think, that's...
And just tailing from that, like, does this... Because TJ Dillashaw had an amazing rise up to the championship, like not like a Max Holloway kind of rise, but like out of nowhere, he's beating Henan Barao kind of rise. So does this erase all that and like make you question how he was able to beat that pound for pound great at that time?
The fact that Cody was saying stuff and he hasn't been with them for a while, I think kind of says something that this probably isn't the first time. And the fact that he would do it before such a big fight, it to me, it signals a guy who had done it before and gotten away with it. It is what it seems like to me. Yeah, I think it does because it's not a tainted supplement thing, and when you're the guy who you stop Barao, you end that whole thing. You have a classic fight with Dominic Cruz. Your Dominic Cruz's return fight, like they don't just give that to anybody. Like that's a big deal. The UFC was super behind him, giving him tons of really good spots on pay-per-views that mattered. I don't know. I think it does make it worse, and it does. He's already an unlikable guy, and giving people a reason to not like you when you're already an unlikable guy is probably not the best move. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think it definitely has, and I think that had it been something else, there would at least be some sort of defense for people like me who like him. That would be like, oh well, it was a tainted supplement, like blah 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 blah. He's still really good. He's this, he's that, and now everything that he's done, from beating Barao to that his run from after he lost to Cruz to getting back to the title was awesome, and he was beating really good guys and doing it really convincingly, and all of that now is kind of just you can't help but wonder, and that sucks. That sucks for everybody. It sucks for all the guys that he fought. It sucks for the fans, and now he's gonna sit out for a couple years. So hope it was worth it, man.
I don't think it's worth it. That's kind of the point of the USADA era, to not make it worth it to do these drugs. And I mean, I guess he knew how to do it for years, but if it's not a pill, if you have to inject it, you better be on your game, man. And he wasn't this time around. So yeah, that's a rough one. That's he was one of the pound best easily, and
Well,
he almost beat Dominic Cruz. He like outclassed Cody Garbrandt twice, and like he was on his way to becoming a real dominant champion at bantamweight, and now it's all done. He's done basically.
well, and one of the things that he was known for was having a great gas tank. Like it's like
Yeah, look at that.
and doing well late in fights, which as Nowitzki said, it's a very effective drug.
It's why
Like, it
cyclists
works.
use it. Yeah.
And and I'm not in the business of feeling bad for Cody Garbrandt, but if you're Cody, you almost won that first one.
Yeah.
And he didn't look terrible in the second fight. But those two fights have definitely altered the trajectory of his career. He was the champ going into that, and now he's on a 3-fight losing streak. I don't want to say like I don't know. It's impossible to tell how much of an effect, but it just kind of it's another reason that it all just kind of sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, he beat a lot of good guys at his height. I mean, Rafael Sunsao is one of them, and
Yeah.
he had they had him matched up with Demetrius Johnson, and Johnson didn't take the fight, and now it looks like Johnson was right the whole time. So they ended up trading Demetrius Johnson out of this whole debacle, and Mighty Mouse was right the whole time. So
Well, and like imagine if Dillashaw would have won against Cejudo.
yeah, that would be
Like
messy.
that, like it would be even. It feels like it would be even worse now.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Thank God
good
for
for
Cejudo.
DJ
Yeah.
for well, and good thing for DJ for avoiding that. Yeah, like I really wanted to see that fight, and now it's like now I'm happy that didn't get touched by the fucked upness of it all.
The bantamweight division is awesome. Like that's
Yeah.
so like it's gonna flourish. I think without TJ Dillashaw, that it's gonna be fine. We got so many contenders at the top: Munhoz, Sterling, Marias. I mean,
Well, and tons of good young
Yeah.
talent too. Like there's plenty on the way as
yeah,
well.
absolutely. So this is gonna lead to good things for all parties except for TJ Dillashaw. So, in other news, the UFC 240 will be taking place on July 27th, and 241 will be on August 17th. The locations are to be determined, but the July one, I believe, is expected to take place in Canada. Not sure where exactly in Canada, but they think that the second pay-per-view in July will take place in Canada. As for UFC 241, the discussions early on are for Daniel Cormier to fight Brock Lesnar for the heavyweight title, and that's via Ariel Helwani. Of course, nothing set in stone, but heavily hinted at by Mr. Paul Heyman at WrestleMania. So, what are your thoughts on that? Brock Lesnar getting that immediate shot. It's been known for a while that if he comes back, it's going to be against Daniel Cormier, and now it's kind of the ball's rolling on this.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I'm happy. It's something I want to see. I'm sure as a wrestling fan, that's part of it. But I don't know. It's to me, if you're gonna bring Brock back for something, doing it something like this rather than something like the Mark Hunt thing, I'm not that mad about it. The heavyweight division sucks. Stipe, I love Stipe, but I don't need that rematch necessarily. Yeah, like it's a fun option, but and I like what John's doing at light heavyweight. I'd rather hold off on Cormier John Jones 3, or we don't even necessarily need to see that fight either. So I don't. To me, there's just not a whole lot of other options, and this gets me excited. And I think Cormier's kind of earned it. And if Lesnar wins, that would be fucking crazy. So yeah, no, I'm excited for it. I'm surprised that they're waiting until August, but that'll give him plenty of time to be, firmly in the USADA pool and a little bit extra to get ready, because now he's officially done, or not officially done, but assuming it seems like he's officially done with wrestling from here on out, or at least for the foreseeable future. So yeah, it gives him a solid 4 months to get ready. So hopefully they get it official soon, because I would like to see that. But I thought we've known that they're going to have a bunch of pay-per-views, but it'll be super interesting to me. All the whole idea of having 2 pay-per-views in a month and the way they do all of this, it's all changed now that it's all on ESPN. Like, it used to seem kind of crazy. It used to seem kind of weird because, that's asking a lot of people to spend a lot of money on 3 pay-per-views in 6 weeks if you buy 239, 240, and 241. But this ESPN thing, I don't know. They're getting their money regardless. So it'll be interesting to see how how that changes the booking on those, if it does at all. Because it's looking like right now, if you put Cormier Lesnar on 241 and assume nothing gets added to 239, and the people that are fighting at 236 and 237 and 238 are busy, that leaves, you got Usman Covington has a potential for that 2nd July pay-per-view, the Canadian one. Maybe Robert Whittaker versus the winner of Adesanya Gastelum. Depending on what Max does, whatever happens with him this weekend and what he does with that 145-pound belt, I could see them putting that on there, like a vacant fight. And then Cyborg and Connor, I feel like, could definitely main event pay-per-views at this point, even without belts, depending on whatever the hell both of them are doing. Good luck figuring that out with either of those parties. But so it should be interesting. Those are all pretty fun fights, or pretty interesting. So it looks like this summer's looking pretty good, at least when it comes to pay-per-view main events.
Yeah, so last year, the second pay-per-view in July, I don't think they did that
DC
last year.
Wasn't it DC John Jones?
They actually did not do a second pay-per-view in July in 2018. I mean, and they typically do. Yeah, they usually have that 2 pay-per-view combo, but last year I think they only did one. It's UFC 226, Miocic versus Cormier. That was the only one. And they did not follow it up. 227 was August 4th. That was Dillashaw Garbrandt too. I remember Woodley won the belt over Lawler in the second pay-per-view in July. That was, if I recall, UFC 206. 201. 201. That's right. 201.
Yeah, it was July 30th.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So that second pay-per-view is never really a big one. So, probably Usman Covington, I would say, gets thrown on there.
Yeah, well, and that'd be an easy way, because put up against some of these other ones, Usman Covington could easily end up being a co-main event or something like that. And on a pay-per-view like that, where I think you're right, it'll definitely be if you're going to buy 2 of the 3 pay-per-views, buying 239 and 241 is probably the right move. And that fight could easily fit as the co-main event on 241. But I think it's a fight that, with how much talking there's going to be with those guys, that you could put that in the main event of that second pay-per-view and feel pretty confident that it's going to gain attention.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more than if you put Whittaker on there, or a couple of 145ers for the vacant featherweight belt.
Yeah, and I think maybe ESPN considers like a package deal for the 2 pay-per-views in July. Like you set a standard price if you're a subscriber, and then you pay that, like, I don't know, $90 for the 2 pay-per-views in the month.
Something like that, yeah.
So,
well, there's going to be, Dana gave his like Trump-style response to, there's going to be so many bundles, the best bundles, the biggest bundles coming out your fucking ass, like bundles. So I want to, that's something I'm very interested to see, and hoping that they actually stick to, because doing stuff like that, I think, is going to be the secret to this becoming a success, and actually getting people to go through multiple paywalls to watch your product.
This is very bundleable. Well, we'll see what they do. Yeah. All right, I think that'll do it for news articles and stuff like that. I did not say the name of the segment at the beginning, but I said it at the end.
You got it in there.
Yeah, I got it in there. And with that, we'll take a short little break, and we'll be right back with some interviews from earlier today, Bellator 222 press conference in New York City. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Throwin Elbows, and today was
there a fucking question mark on the end of that?
It's a new thing. This is we're trying this we're trying this break thing for the first time. So I'm like, does this sound right? And it came through in my voice. Elbows? Yeah. Well, I guess you're still listening.
Well, and I shouldn't give you shit, because you did good work today. We had Throwin Elbows on the ground. I guess you were cage side press, but if you just Sharpie our name on the back of your press pass, yep. I think you're good.
So yeah, I was at the Bellator 222 press conference. There was someone that asked Scott Coker, "Is this Bellator NYC or Bellator 222?" And he said, "This is 222. Don't worry, guys." And at that press conference was Chael Sonnen, Lyoto Machida, Heather Hardy, Neiman Gracie, Dylan Dennis, and his opponent Max Humphrey, I believe his name is. He's like 3-2 in MMA. And after the press conference, the fighters were available. Chael Sonnen was swarmed. Dylan Dennis was swarmed. So I interviewed Neiman Gracie, Heather Hardy, and Lyoto Machida. And we'll play these interviews right now, starting with, how about the shortest one? Heather Hardy. Here with Heather Hardy, and in both your life and your fighting career, New York is your home. So how much of an advantage does that give you as opposed to your opponents who aren't as used to New York?
Well, it's kind of like Dylan said up there. I earned it, right? I earned my right to fight in my home city. I hustled tickets, beginning of my career, 22 boxing fights. I became well known in the media. So, yeah, it is definitely a plus to be able to fight at home in front of your fans. But anybody can do it. You just got to work hard.
And like Dylan, you're part of this movement from Bellator to sign fighters who excel in other martial arts to start their MMA careers with Bellator. So what do you think of that whole movement of giving you guys an opportunity to try out mixed martial arts?
I think it's awesome. I mean, like, we're all fighters at heart, right? Like, you put me in the cage, and I don't pretend to be like this great MMA fighter. Everybody knows what you're going to get when you get me, right? I might set it up with some kicks, I might come push you around a bit, but this is what you're getting, you know? And I mean, that is a testament to the fighter who's getting in there saying, I'm not coming in with no secrets. My this is better than all that you got.
And the last Bellator MIC card you were on was huge. It had Chael, it had Fedor. This one is huge as well. Title fight, Chael again, Lyoto Machida. So how does that feel to be a part of that whole spectacle?
Oh my gosh, it's like, sometimes it's like, I don't even believe it's my life. When I came in and saw this big picture, I was like, I had to show my mom. So it's surreal.
Mm-hmm. And do you have an opponent in mind yet, or is Bellator working on that?
I don't bother with it. Like, my management and Rich, they talk back and forth, and you know, they do the thing. So I'm confident that they'll give me somebody and I'll be fine.
So last time out, you faced a former professional boxer, and this time, are you looking to have someone that's not from the boxing background and test your other side?
Well, it's funny because the last one, she was a professional boxer, and we wound up rolling around the ground the whole fight, right? So it's like, This is the thing about MMA, you never really know what you're going to get. Mm-hmm. So you had two fighters doing boring jiu-jitsu. Hopefully this time it'll be something better.
So your goal is to keep this fight more on the feet?
Keep this fight on the feet,
okay.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much, Heather.
All right. Yep. Nice to talk to you.
That was Heather Hardy, and now we'll talk to the man who is receiving a welterweight title shot in his next fight at MSG, whether it's against John Fitch or Rory McDonald. He doesn't care. It is Neiman Gracie. So here it is. Here with Neiman Gracie, and you are a New Yorker through and through. And does that give you an advantage in this fight, being so close to Madison Square Garden?
It does and it doesn't at the same time, you know. I don't believe in advantages once the cage is locked. We are 50-50, so, but definitely fighting home, it's great, you know. I get to sleep at my bed, at my apartment, and it's like going to sparring for me. It's like going to my gym and spar. It's great, you know.
And you've been in Bellator since 2015. Now it all culminates in this title shot at Madison Square Garden. So how does that feel?
Finally, man, it's about time. You know, I'm ready. I'm more of a mature fighter right now, and I think everything is happening at the right time. And I'll be ready. I'll be ready to give my best. I'm gonna train really hard, and I'll be ready. Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on the Rory versus Fitch matchup, stylistically?
It's a great fight. You know, definitely Rory is definitely the favorite, but Fitch, his game is really hard for people to deal with. So I don't really know what's gonna happen. It's gonna be a great fight, and I'll be ready for whoever wins this fight.
And Kron Gracie, he made his UFC debut recently, very successful. So how did it feel to see your family's name again at that highest level?
Boy, it feels awesome, man. His fight was perfect. It was a perfect Gracie Jiu-Jitsu fight, you know, and it couldn't be better. All of us, we are all proud of him, you know, and I can't wait for his next one.
And your last fight was in Hawaii, so what was that experience like?
Man, that was awesome. Like, I think my two best fights that I enjoyed the most was here at the Garden and this one in Hawaii. So I hope that happens every time. It's going to be here at the Garden, Hawaii, you know, so.
It's a good plan.
Yeah, I hope I fight here at the Garden, the finals will be in Hawaii.
And on the other side of this welterweight bracket, you have Michael Button Page versus Douglas Lima. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that matchup?
I think Douglas is the favorite, you know, but again, MVP is a guy that he can hit you with something and knock you out. So it will be a tense fight. especially because I think that Douglas will keep this fight standing up. So it's going to be a great fight.
And knowing your next opponent in this tournament fashion, what advantage does that bring to your training?
It's great, you know. It's great because I know already. I have a date ready to fight, and I kind of know who I'm gonna be fighting. So it's great because it gives me the right time to prepare, you know.
Mm-hmm. And so this is like a huge card. Of course, it's got Lyoto Machida, Chael Sonnen. You got your title shot, Heather Hardy, Dylan Dennis. So. This is a lot of eyes on this card, and Bellator's trusting you to be a part of this. So how does that feel to be like one of those big stars?
It feels great. I feel that I am where I'm supposed to be. So I'm gonna put on a show again, and gonna get one more submission.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much, Neiman.
And thank you to Neiman Gracie, and last but not least, the former UFC champion, the legend, the dragon, Lyoto Machida.
Here with the legendary Lyoto Machida, and Lyoto, you are headlining a marquee card in Madison Square Garden. How does that feel? Just your second fight in.
So I feel so happy, very excited for this fight, and for me, it could not be different to fight in Madison Square Garden against Chael Sonnen. It's a great opportunity, and I can't wait to step on the cage.
And Chael was giving you a lot of respect in the press conference, saying he doesn't really know how to approach this fight. So what are you expecting from him on fight night?
I'm expecting for him a tough opponent. So he's an icon in this sport. And he knows how to train. He knows how to fight, and he always gives a hard work for everyone. It's not going to be different for me. So I'll be ready, very well prepared for this fight, and of course I'll have some thinking under my sleeve.
And after many years in the UFC, what was the experience of fighting in Bellator like?
So happy, man. So happy to have opportunity to fight here in Bellator. Not only because the Bellator is a huge event, it's one of the best events in the world, but because, you know, when you change something in your life, you have different motivation, you have different inspiration. And for me to fight here with different guys and have a different belts, opportunities, so it means a lot to me.
And on top of that fight was in Hawaii, so what was that experience like?
It was good. Hawaii, I love Hawaii. Every time when I have a chance, I go to Hawaii to spend my vacation time over there. And for me, it was a good experience. I have to be honest in saying that it's different. So when you step the first time in the Bellator, is different, the pressure is different, the pressure was there and everything was there. So the cage is different, it's a circle. So I gotta get more used to be there.
And in your first fight, you beat the former champion Rafael Carvalho, and you said with a win here against Sonnen, you believe you got a title shot. So how does it feel to make this much of an impact this quickly in Bellator?
So, you know, when I signed the contract with Bellator, I said that I could flow in different categories, so 205, 185. Now I have this opportunity to fight Chael Sonnen. For me, when the Bellator offered me this name, I said, oh my God, that's the best name that I could find. And after this fight, I'm gonna figure out what's gonna be my next fight. I just realized that 1 week after my fight, they're gonna have a main event in London for the belt. And who knows? I can be there live and watching who's gonna be the next champion.
So that fight is between Gegard Mousasi and Rafael Lovato Jr. What are your thoughts on that matchup?
So Mousasi has more experience. He has much more fights, but it doesn't mean everything. It only means that he has more experience. But the fights, it's a combination of everything, you know. So you have to have experience. You have to be very motivated, and also you have to have a good strategy. Lovato is a guy that is so dangerous because you know what he already did in jiu-jitsu. He has a very sharp ground game, so you gotta pay attention. You never know what's gonna happen in every fight, in different fights.
And since your win against Mousasi in 2014, what have you seen in his growth as a fighter?
So he has been growing a lot. He has been growing different ways, so he improves a lot his ground game. But as I said, MMA fights, that's why everybody likes MMA, because you never know what's gonna happen in these fights. The fighter can go to the ground, the fighter can stay stand, and you have something, just one technique you can finish the fight. Mousasi, he's a tough opponent, but he has a very hard task in front of him. After that, you can see, I have my fight too. I have to focus on my next opponent, that is Chael.
Yeah, and with that fight against Chael, how do you see that ending?
My hands will be raised at the end of the fight. So before the time ends, so I'm gonna finish this fight. I don't know where it's gonna be, because you never know, but I'll finish this fight.
All right, and big thanks to all three of those fighters. So you can check out the video form of those interviews on the Cage Side Press YouTube page. And there will be write-ups coming out on CageSidePress.com as well. So with that, we will take another break and come back with the fights that have been announced this week. Welcome back to Throwin Elbows, period. So this week, a couple fights.
Can we do an exclamation point? I don't know, have a little...
All right. Welcome back to Throwin Elbows, exclamation point.
Jesus, turn down the DJ voice. Jesus Christ.
It's time to talk about the fights that were announced this week. Alexander Volkov is out of UFC St. Petersburg. No one really knows why. Some say USADA, UFC itself say health issues. That doesn't matter, because he is replaced by the one and only Alexei Oleinik, the boa constrictor. He faces Alistair Overeem, and this doesn't really bode well for the old man who catches necks. But man, if he can win this one, how awesome would that be? An Alexei Oleinik win over Alistair Overeem.
I just love that when you said the old man, and before you finished your sentence, I didn't know which one you were talking about. It doesn't bode well for the old man, and I was like, yeah, actually, for both of them, that works. Yeah, I don't know. The thing about Oleinik in this one is, like, in order to do that, you got to fit your arms around. Like, I don't know if you.
Oh yeah, he does have a big neck.
Fit his arms around Overeem's neck. Yeah, well, like, I know he's not Ubereem, but he's still a fucking big guy. So, and Overeem hits really hard, and yeah, I'm not. It'll be interesting to see. Like, I don't know. Might as well do it, and good on him for stepping up, but. Yeah, I think I like Overeem in this one. And that's another guy who in that heavyweight should be talking about getting... Hasn't Overeem been doing well? Now I feel like a dumbass. Now I feel like maybe
he beat that debuting guy.
Oh, and I guess he lost to Ngannou, huh? Or not Ngannou, he lost to someone else. Blades, right?
Yeah, he lost to Blades.
So maybe not. Maybe I'm talking out my ass.
Some podcast we got here.
Oh yeah, it was Blades.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know. And Ngannou, yeah, he's not done great lately. But I don't know. He's fine.
Okay.
He'll be fine.
Okay.
I think that as tricky as Oleinik is, and someone that he definitely needs to look out for, it's hard to think that. The current level of Overeem that we've seen lately should be able to handle that relatively well.
Yeah, and Alexei Oleinik really kind of reminds me of a heavyweight Dan Kelly. You know, one of Throwin Elbow's favorite. It's just the way that he moves. He just looks like a broken man, but he somehow wins fights.
Well, and like, yeah, he's super fun to root for, and like the rise of Dan Kelly was super fun.
Amazing.
But there also was a time where it was like, okay, the joke's over now. Like, stop giving him really tough fighters.
Joke's not over
and
yet.
Then I remember
with Oleinik.
No, but I mean, I remember he beat Rashad Evans, and we were all about that. And then they gave him Derek Brunson the next fight.
I mean, you could tell from the start, like, what are we doing here?
It was a minute. Well, and it was in New Zealand, and so it was like even like super cool for Dan Kelly, Australian Dan Kelly. But yeah, that was not fun. Yeah, he's lost 3 fights in a row. It's been rough for our boy Dan Kelly.
Yeah, but Oleinik, he beat Mark Hunt. He beat Junior Albini. I mean, before that, he lost to Curtis Blades, but he had a win against Travis Brown, Victor Pesta. So 4 out of your last 5. That ain't bad.
I think this is gonna be Kelly Brunson too. I'm calling it.
I could definitely see that. It's similar body types as well. So, Yoel Romero is out of UFC Fort Lauderdale. So this whole thing going on with UFC Fort Lauderdale, no one really knows how to name this event. It's UFC Sunrise, UFC Miami, UFC Florida, UFC Fort Lauderdale. It's UFC and ESPN3. That's really what matters. It's going to be on ESPN, the big one. First off, the main event was supposed to be Yoel Romero versus Paulo Borrachinha, and Borrachinha never, signed on, I guess. It's something that happened where he just didn't sign on to the fight. It was never officially announced. Then Jacare, go ahead.
I think right now there's lots of USADA rumors about Borrachinha
well,
going
I mean,
out right
that's
now.
been his whole
But
career.
I mean, yeah, but I mean that's the reason that he ended up never accepting the fight or going. That was the stopping point. And I remember Romero joked about it and then got in trouble.
Yeah.
And then had to come back and say like no. But I've seen other stuff that has kind of linked it toward that. So interesting to see if we have another USADA discussion here pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't be a surprising one. So,
Yeah.
it was supposed to be Borrachinha versus Romero. Borrachinha never signs on. Then Jacare steps in. Awesome main event. Yoel versus Jacare 2. I mean, the first fight was very fun. I mean, not like fun in a, slobber knocker way, but fun in these are the two best guys at middleweight that don't have a belt, and they're fighting. And that was way back at UFC 194.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
And then Romero pulls out with pneumonia, and it was rumored for a little bit that Borrachinha was stepping in against Jacare, which was weird. And then Jacare tweets out that the people stepping up are running away or whatever. And then all of a sudden, it's Kevin Holland is rumored to fight Jacare Souza. Now it's Jack Hermanson. So, yeah, Kevin Holland That
would have been fucking hilarious.
Yeah. So Jack Hermanson coming off that big win against David Branch, just 45 seconds he spent in the cage, wanted a quick turnaround, wanted Chris Weidman. He gets a quick turnaround against Jacare Souza at the end of this month. So, really big matchup for Hermanson. He's been climbing up the middleweight division for a while, and now he gets his chance to say, I'm a top contender at middleweight. What chances does he have against Jacare?
I think he has a great chance. I think that he has all the things in a fighter that you need in order to beat someone like Jacare. And I love Jacare, very pro Jacare, but I think Jacare's kind of past it at this point. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. And Hermanson's really coming into his own. He's really, really finding his prime right now. He's won 3 in a row. That win over David Branch was particularly impressive. He's knocking guys out fast. Yeah. And he's good on the ground. Like he has he's a well-rounded fighter that can do a lot of things, and that's usually one of the things that Jacare, has on so many people. Is obviously his jiu-jitsu and ground game is great, and his striking has improved a lot. At middleweight, the higher the weight classes you go, the less versatile guys seem to get. But Hermanson is a guy that I think can stand up to Jacare in all those areas. And if you're Hermanson, how great is that? You come out there, you do a fantastic job against David Branch. You get your fight of the night or performance of the night or whatever. You ask for Weidman. You want to fight quickly. And here you go. You get a main event, super quick. But you get a main event and you ask for a Weidman and you get a Jacare. Like, that's a pretty sweet, first class upgrade kind of a deal. So it's a huge fight for him, and if he can win this, he's going to be right in it, and he's earned this opportunity. So good for him for stepping up in a big moment, and I think I might kind of even be rooting for him. I love my boy Jacare, but seeing Hermanson do this would put him on a pretty solid trajectory for the rest of the year, which regardless of this happening, he was already on. So excited to see where he goes from here at 185.
And this report came with one of the emptier promises you'll see from the UFC, where it said if Jacare wins this one, he is promised a title shot. But the problem there is the interim middleweight title is being fought for this weekend. That person has to fight Robert Whittaker, and then that person will fight Jacare, I guess, forever down the road. So, I mean,
in Jacare, I remember before. What was the fight before? Maybe it was before the. What was the fight that we disagreed on? The Whittaker fight? I think it was before the Whittaker fight. He signed a 6 or 7 fight deal. and he's been hurt for a lot of that. So title shot though, he lost to Gastelum. I guess he beat up Brunson and Weidman, and a win over Hermanson would be good. But I don't think you should be allowed to fight for the title at middleweight unless you beat Yoel Romero. I feel like that should be a last boss that you have to go through before you get a title shot. I would rather see them run that back than him win and get a title shot. But I think I'm leaning Hermanson in that one.
Yeah, and Yoel does look like a video game character, so that makes sense.
He does.
Yeah. So, UFC 239. Your boy. This one makes sense. Not my boy Cody Garbrandt. This is your boy Michael Chiesa.
I was gonna say Diego Sanchez ain't my boy.
No. Your boy Michael Chiesa is facing Diego Sanchez. So we got tough one in Diego Sanchez, the first Ultimate Fighter winner ever, against Ultimate Fighter 15 winner Michael Chiesa. This I don't know. I don't think this makes sense. This fight. I don't know. I don't really know what we're going for here. I mean, yeah, Diego Sanchez beat Mickey Gall, but Michael Chiesa is Michael Chiesa, and he is way closer to his prime than Diego Sanchez is. So I'm not really sure what the goal is here.
Yeah. When we first initially found out about this fight, I texted you that he's gonna murder him, and I don't see how this goes well for Diego Sanchez. He's a guy that he's on the first winning streak that he's had in forever, and that winning streak is it 2 fights or is it 3 fights? Not a lot. Yeah. He's taken a lot of damage, and the thing that he was able to do to Mickey Gall that was so impressive, that was so great. Mickey's not smart, and Mickey's not experienced, and Mickey went out there, blew his load in the first 2 minutes, winging haymakers at Diego Sanchez, which is not smart regardless, especially when you're not a good striker like Mickey Gall, and then got out-wrestled and just mauled by a guy that is really big and really strong and good at wrestling. But Chiesa's bigger, and Chiesa's great at wrestling, and Chiesa is probably stronger, and Chiesa has experience and isn't going to go out there and fight stupid. So I don't know how this goes anyway, except for a win for Chiesa, which will put him at 2-0 at welterweight with wins over Condit and Diego Sanchez. And I'm a little bummed that they didn't give him the Magny fight, which we'll get to in a little bit. Got announced. He has a different opponent. I was kind of hoping for that after the initial. Who was Magny's first opponent?
Zaleski Dos Santos.
Yeah, after that fell through, I was hoping that meant that Chiesa was sliding in there, because I would still rather see that fight. I think Chiesa Magny is a super interesting fight, and I would like to see that. Regardless of if both these guys win, I think that that would be fun to do later in the year. But I think it's cool they're putting Chiesa on the high profile card on International Fight Week. It'll be interesting to see if that's on the pay-per-view or the prelims. It kind of looks like
I feel like a prelim fight.
Featured prelim maybe. But yeah, it's cool putting the 2 Ultimate Finale winners, getting Diego a little bit of that shine on 239. But ultimately, I think that's going to be a one-sided fight for Chiesa at welterweight. God, and he is so big. That's the thing. All of the advantages that if you're Diego Sanchez, you want in the octagon, he just doesn't have in that matchup.
Yeah, it would be stunning if Diego wins this fight. I mean, yeah, you can take on inexperienced guys like Craig White and Mickey Gall and beat those guys, but this is Michael Chiesa we're talking about. He's one of the top talents at lightweight, and now he's moving up to welterweight and still winning. So, yeah, this is all Chiesa. So I don't see how Diego Sanchez wins this fight. So that does leave room for a huge upset, classic moment. Diego Sanchez wins on International Fight Week, which would be crazy to see. So,
yeah,
very little chance it happens though. UFC 238 in Chicago. Couple of great fights announced. Aljamain Sterling versus Pedro Munoz. Jimmy Rivera versus Peter Yan. Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Alexa Grasso. All 3 of those fights are awesome. They really nailed it with all 3 of those fights. I'm not sure what my favorite one is. Probably the Aljo one, because that fight probably determines who's getting the next shot at bantamweight after the Moraes versus Cejudo fight, which is the main event. So they really got this card lined up where it's a lot of bantamweights being showcased. You have the bantamweight title in the main event, Cejudo Moraes. Then you have the number 1 contender fight, Aljamain Sterling versus Pedro Munoz. And then you have a future contender in Peter Yan also on the card. So I really like how they're building up UFC 238.
Yeah, this card looks awesome. those trio bantamweight fights are all super fun matchups. Big step up for Peter Yan. Jimmy Rivera trying to be the prospect killer there. And I think you're absolutely right with Munoz Sterling. I always love when they do the number one contender fights on the same card as the championship fight. That's great. And they're kind of doing the same thing here with the Chukagi and Calderwood fight and having Shevchenko I on there as well.
And then, never mind. They don't have the strawweight title fight on there, but they have the number one contender in the strawweight.
Close. Yeah. One pay-per-view apart. Yep. I think that's good. And yeah, don't forget that card also has Ricardo Lamas, Calvin Kattar on it as well. Yeah. And Tatiana Suarez, Nina Ansarov. Like, that card is shaping up to be really, really fun. That's and Tai Tuivasa is on there against Bogo Ivanov. Yeah, that's a really, really fun pay-per-view that's coming up. And it's hard to hate any of those matchups. They all make sense. They're all fun. They all should be entertaining. Interesting to see Kowalkiewicz get back out there so quick. Mm-hmm. And Alexa Grasso is a tough opponent. Like, that's someone that if she goes in there and fights the same way she did against Watterson, she's going to lose again. So it'll be interesting to see how she does with a relatively quick turnaround.
Still waiting for it all to click with Alexa Grasso because she's got a ton of talent, but she's just so tentative. And then when you see her let her hands go, it's like, wow, she can really box, but just never really shows that off. So maybe this is the one. Maybe Carolina pulls that out of her.
Well, and I think that a part of it for Grasso that she could maybe take some solace in is that I think she could benefit for being a little bit more aggressive. And if you watch that tape of Kowalkiewicz fight against Watterson, someone who never throws combos. Yeah. Well, and she never throws combos, and she's never aggressive. She was able to go out there and impose her will on her, and that's something that if you're Grasso, you have to do the same thing. Whether it works or not, you don't have a choice because that's the easiest route to victory. I think if you're going to try and do that, so maybe that'll pull something out of her. Maybe having a little bit of a different strategy and game plan going, and will change things up. Yeah,
we saw a much different Michelle Watterson, so maybe we'll see a much different Alexa Grasso in this fight. UFC Rochester, upstate New York, Western New York, however you want to designate it, gets Neil Magny versus Vicente Luque. So this is really Luque's big step up in the UFC. He's getting a ranked opponent in Neil Magny, and I cannot wait for this because this is Luque's chance to show that he's not just a guy who finishes guys on the prelims. He's a guy to really look out for at welterweight, and I think Neil Magny is a perfect guy to showcase that against. He's beatable. I mean, we saw that he was the showcase fight for Rafael dos Anjos, who was able to use him to propel himself to the top 5 at welterweight for a little bit. So maybe we get Vicente Luque getting into that top 15 with a win over Magny.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. That's a good step up for him. Magny is a guy that presents a lot of fairly unique problems with his length and his wrestling ability and striking ability. He's another guy who's fairly well rounded. But yeah, if you're Luque and you want to be up there in the top 10, you got to be able to beat guys like Neil Magny, and that's a big reason I wanted Guess to get this fight because I wanted to see him against a test like that. But I think this will be good for both guys. If you're Magny, a win over Luque that's a nice thing to have right now because Luque is looking really, really good. And so as much as it's a step up for Luque, I think this could be good for Magny too, as he kind of tries to build some steam at 170. It's another really fun division, and right now, like we've kind of mentioned over the last few weeks, shit's changing at 170. Yeah. Like stuff is getting shuffled around, and you want to be up at the top when it's getting moved around like that. So you don't have time for losing, no time for that. So I like the matchup. I think it's fun. Still would rather have Magny Chiesa, but hopefully we get that later on this year down the road.
And lastly, Julio Arce versus Julian Erosa. That's just a straight banger. That's just an awesome fight added to this card. Another one.
Yeah, and I was just happy to see Erosa get back in there. Yakima, Washington, guy about an hour away from where I live. Nice to see him get back in there after his most recent performance. He was a guy that came and joined the UFC and then left for a little while and was fighting more regionally, and it's nice to see him. I can't remember what his last fight was.
It was against Grant Dawson? That was in Wichita, right?
Wichita, that's when it was. Yeah. And he didn't look great. Wasn't able to really fight his kind of a fight, but didn't look bad either. And it was nice to see him get back in there and get another fight signed up relatively quickly. So fun to see him on that card too.
Yeah, and with that, we will be taking a quick break, and when we come back, we will talk about UFC 236, which is coming up this weekend. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Throwin Elbows. One more segment to go. Breaking down UFC 236 this weekend. A couple of interim title fights. At the top, main event is the lightweight title fight between Max Holloway, the featherweight champion, and Dustin Poirier. Co-main event is Israel Adesanya versus Kelvin Gastelum for the interim middleweight title. So, first off, the main event, Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier, a rematch of a fight many years ago. Max Holloway's debut, young 20-year-old from Hawaii, comes in against Dustin Poirier, a WEC veteran, and Poirier submits him with a pretty nasty triangle-mounted armbar in the first round. And it was kind of like, hey, welcome to the UFC, buddy. And then since then, Holloway has been amazing. I mean, he's only lost to Conor McGregor. I believe that's it. So they're both much different fighters now than they were then. And now Max Holloway is moving up in weight too. I mean, he's always seemed big for 145. This move worked out for Dustin Poirier, moving up from 145, where he's now the best he's ever looked in his career. But can he match up with a tested lightweight like Dustin Poirier? I mean, does he have does his massive amount of skill make up for the fact that he's not used to fighting at this weight class?
I think so. I think the fact that he's not going to have to cut that extra 10 pounds is good. He's not a small 145er. He's always been kind of a big guy.
Yep.
If there's a guy that you can look at that has room for 10 more pounds, he's definitely that. He's stood in there with the likes of Brian Ortega. That's a pretty big 145er. Jose Aldo hits like a truck. Like I guarantee Aldo hits as hard as a lot of 155ers. Pettis, he fought. And especially now, especially speaking of Pettis, a guy that moved up in weight and looked really good, I think it's kind of clear that once you're at a certain skill level, the advantages you get from cutting down weights aren't what maybe they used to be, especially with guys that are this friggin' talented. I'm so excited to watch Max Holloway fight. He has to be one of the most entertaining fighters. He goes in there, dominates, gets finishes. He's so much fun, and you don't have to worry about any shit. We've done a really good job of not mentioning any of the Conor Habib nonsense this episode, and I'm glad we avoided it. But you don't have to worry about that kind of shit with Max. You don't have to worry about him popping for EPOh. You don't have, he's just fucking awesome, and you can get behind him and watch him go in there and root for him and not feel bad about it. So I think that 155, I think that him joining maybe the best champ that we have in the promotion, joining the best division that we have in the promotion, I think that's awesome. I think that's fun, and I hope he stays there. I guess that kind of means I hope he wins, because I don't want him, I don't think we need, what more do we need from Max at 145? We've seen him fight, 2/3 of the fucking division by this point. And also, he also lost to Dennis Bermudez before that.
That's right. Loss.
Yeah. A split decision, so it's whatever.
Yeah, I remember a lot of people thinking Holloway won that. Yeah.
So I don't know. I hope that he stays. I hope that I think that we'll see some benefits from him. And I'm pretty confident in his abilities, not only just in this fight but going forward. It's so hard to especially in his most recent performances. He's just looked so good. There's nothing bad to say. So I'm impressed, and the dude's 27. He still has a long way to go if he really wants to, and I think not having to cut that extra 10 pounds, I think that's good, and the fact that he's getting a pretty big opportunity here, and he's not exactly a guy who shies away from these kind of moments, and these big moments that he's been getting, he's looked better each time. So I don't see him shying away from it here for that interim belt.
Yeah, I think 155 will be a good home for Max Holloway once he gets settled in. I mean, it's tough to have Dustin Poirier be your first fight at 155, going up there. It does kind of mirror that UFC debut of Max Holloway, where he's making a debut. He's making a big step in his career, and Dustin Poirier is there waiting for him. So we'll see if there's a mounted triangle armbar in the first round this time around. Probably not, but this fight looks awesome on paper, and it will probably be awesome on Saturday. And it's just when you're looking at guys who are fighting Max Holloway, it's tough to picture them winning, and that's what we got here, or with Dustin Poirier, who's an amazing fighter in his own right, but he doesn't have the title defenses and the ridiculous win streak that Max Holloway does. So how does Dustin Poirier win this fight?
I don't think we're gonna see him. I don't think we're gonna see him mounted armbar triangle him in the first round. I think
that's fair.
I think it's gonna have to be a different route for him. I don't think that the current form of Max Holloway is going to allow that to happen. Interesting note though, Max, his featherweight debut was against Poirier, and now his lightweight debut is against Poirier. Welcome him to both weight classes.
That's right.
Wait, what?
No.
Maybe I'm wrong. Return to lightweight then, wouldn't it be? Yeah, no, so this is his return to lightweight, not his lightweight debut.
Okay.
Lightweight UFC
Lightweight
debut,
UFC debut.
we can call it.
Get the technicalities out there.
But I think Dustin's improved a lot since then too, and he's been through a lot. And as much as Max has fought a bunch of the tough guys and has been around for a while, Dustin checks a lot of those same boxes. And another box that he checks that Max has done too is the improvement and the fact that he's just been stringing wins together like there's no tomorrow. Like, especially since he moved up to lightweight, that's a guy that Max has to be looking at someone like Poirier and saying, I think I could beat that guy, and he's going up to lightweight, and he looks really good, and he's not having to cut this weight, and that looks good to me, and he can handle the Pettises and the Gaethjes and the Eddie Alvarezes of the world. So, I think it's going to be tough because he's going to have to outbox him and outstrike him, and Dustin Poirier is really good at striking a lot and putting a high volume, and so is Max. I think that's a reason that this fight is just so damn entertaining, is that both guys just love to throw and do it a bunch, and I don't think that that's going to change, but I think that also just kind of plays right into Max's hand. I think that he's probably the better boxer, he's probably the smarter boxer. He might not have the power advantage, but Max, that's never been something that Max has. That's not his style, He's not a power puncher. He's not a one punch KO. I'm gonna slowly dismantle you over the course of 15 minutes. And while Poirier I would say that Poirier has the power advantage. He's not exactly a one punch KO guy either. I mean, anybody can KO anybody, as Pettis showed the other week against Wonderboy. But I just don't see Holloway giving Poirier the opening to land the fight, or to land the punch that I think he would need to in order to win this fight. But I think that's gonna have to do it. I think he's gonna have to out Max Holloway, and that's a tough ask. That's a big ask. But the last time I thought that about a title fight, it was Kamaru Usman, and I was dead fucking wrong. So
I think you might have to do it in the first round too, because we know that Max Holloway always is able to make adjustments after the first round and look better as the fight goes on.
Yeah,
which is tough.
And he has a chin. It's not like we've seen Max, beat he's been in there against Aldo and twice, and
McGregor
took Aldo's best shots. Yeah, and so it's hard to envision that, but I think that is a better strategy than the trying to wrestle him again.
Yeah, we'll see. That's definitely a very intriguing matchup, and one that will surely deliver on the entertainment front on Saturday. Another entertaining fight is Israel Adesanya versus Kelvin Gastelum, the co-main event for the interim middleweight title, as Robert Whittaker recovers from his hernia. So Adesanya gets a title shot. He's pretty early on in his MMA career. He's still undefeated, but is a guy like Kelvin Gastelum, is this too much for Israel Adesanya? I mean, he beat Derek Brunson, he beat Anderson Silva, but we never saw him beat that gauntlet of any of the members of the gauntlet of middleweight. He just kind of jumped the line. The guys like Weidman, Jacare, Romero, those kind of guys at middleweight, and Adesanya just scooted right by and got that title shot. So is this too much too soon for Israel Adesanya?
I think in a lot of situations I would probably say yes, but he's got the kickboxing experience. He's got that kind of I guess pedigree is the right word to use, but he has that experience. He's been around, and wins over Anderson Silva and Derek Brunson aren't. It's not the upper echelon of middleweight. And Gastelum has the wins over Jacare, the win over Bisping, I guess. Like that fight, the fact that still happened, bothers me. But before that, like I don't know, he beaten old Johnny Hendricks, Tim Kennedy. The Vitor fight, I mean, that's a win. That's a
win. Yeah.
No contest. Yeah. And then, he lost to Weidman. So I don't know. It's not like he definitely has more experience against the top fighters at both welterweight and middleweight, but it's not like he's faced the best of the best. Like, I don't know. His resume could definitely be better for a title contender. I think that just kind of speaks to middleweight a little bit. But I also think a big part of it, a reason that it doesn't feel like it's crazy, kind of like the Kies that Diego Sanchez won. A reason this doesn't feel that way is that the matchup for Gastelum is just a little it's going to be interesting to see how Gastelum wins this fight, because against most guys in that division, he's going to be faster, he's going to be the better striker, he's going to have those advantages, and even against some guys, he's going to be able to out wrestle him. And I think it's going to be pretty safe to say he's not going to be the better striker against Adesanya. Adesanya has like a 10-inch reach advantage, which is going to be put to use. And so to me, Gastelum's going to need to wrestle him. And we've seen Adesanya's takedown defense a little bit, and it's looked good. How it looks against someone in a 5-round fight that can also do stuff on the feet is interesting. But Gastelum's going to have to get inside that range first. And so if he's working to get inside the range and can't hit Adesanya, if he's swinging at air while he's trying to get into range, and maybe he gets a couple takedowns, Gastelum's not exactly like a submission artist. So even if he does take him down and get him to the ground, he can ground and pound, but maybe Adesanya gets back up a couple times, and then that next time that he goes to shoot that takedown, bam, there's a Marlon Moraes style knee waiting for him. So I don't know. I've gone back and forth on this fight. We had Austin Arnett on last week, and he felt like taking Gastelum, who's the slight underdog at this point, and trusted his boxing. But you got to be in range to use that boxing. You got to be able to get in there. And Gastelum has the skills. I think that he's a crafty enough striker and a good enough wrestler to where he knows how to get inside. But if he's going to have to do that consistently over the course of all 5 rounds, and I think potentially seeing someone like Adesanya maybe just point strike him for 2 or 3 rounds, get him frustrated, maybe get him a little desperate late in the fight. I think maybe we see it going that way, and instead maybe like a Wonder Boy Woodley kind of a situation.
Yeah, I've praised Kelvin's boxing. I've called his 1-2 combo the best in the UFC. It's so clean and crisp, and he lands on everyone. But that's not really going to work against Israel Adesanya. I mean, he knows what to do in that situation, and he kind of will have to lean back on his wrestling, and we know that he can grapple. I think he does have a couple submission wins in the UFC. I think he submitted Jake Ellenberger, Nico Masoke, if I'm remembering. There might be some more that are slipping my mind, but those two, I believe, were submissions early on in his UFC run.
The Masoke one was a decision, but the Ellenberger, was a rear naked choke.
Okay.
And he also Brian Melancon.
Oh,
that's somebody.
Melanson?
Melanson? Oh, yeah, shit.
I don't even remember him being in the UFC. But yeah, he'll have to rely on that wrestling. We have seen it.
Oh,
go ahead.
He also submitted Bill Smallwood with a rear naked choke at Cage Rage on the River 2.
I'm not talking about Cage Rage on the River 2, man.
I'm just looking at his Wikipedia. So he has 3 career submissions. That'll be the Who Am I next week.
Did he submit anyone on Tough? Because, I mean, he won Tough. He beat Uriah Hall.
Oh, those don't count. If it's not on the Wikipedia, then I'm not going to put the effort into
it's in the description part, not in the record part. If you really want to dig.
Jesus Christ! Now we're doing this thing. I just wanted to make a joke about Bill Smallwood.
I heard you chuckle as you said it. I didn't want to acknowledge it though.
Oh come on! And he was the last pick. Now we're learning everything about Tough.
By Chael.
Maybe this needs to be. So yeah, Kelvin. He did. He submitted Josh Salmon. Oh,
rest in peace.
Sad.
Yeah.
He submitted him in the semifinals.
Okay.
See, I just make a joke about Bill Smallwood, and you bring us down with your
it did.
Ultimate Fighter nonsense.
Okay, fair enough. But I think it is a tough matchup for Kelvin Gastelum. He's outsized in this. Izzy's skinny, but like he's got a lot of length on Kelvin, and Kelvin's a stocky middleweight. If he can, we haven't seen Izzy on his back really. I mean, I think Marvin Vettori took him down a little bit, but not quite enough to like really put Izzy in danger. So we don't really know what to expect of Izzy on his back, and I don't know. We'll see if this is the fight where we find out what he looks like with his grappling game, because that might be Gastelum's only way to beat Adesanya. He's not going to win a striking match, and as good as Kelvin's boxing is, he's not going to win a striking match against Adesanya. So a lot of questions will be answered this weekend.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes this card is pretty well put together. I think the matchups are interesting, but it's still pretty top heavy. But I think the fact that I'm pretty confident in my picks. Like I think Adesanya and Max are gonna win, but there's a lot going on in both of these matchups. And a lot of things that we just don't know. And it's fun when you not only have that, but you have it with guys that are fun to watch. You have it with I'm trying not to hate on Usman's title win too much, but like we're not. And it was impressive, but it wasn't like fun. Like to me, there's
I was taking that to the bank.
I just don't see. There's not a universe where Holloway Poirier doesn't deliver, and I don't know. Even though they're interim titles and it's all a little bit goofy, but I'm just really excited for these two fights, and I think it's not only because they're fun names and stuff like that, but these are really, really, really interesting matchups. More so than kind of just some of the straightforward ones. This is fun matchmaking and good matchmaking, and getting them both on the same card, I think, is a treat, despite the kind of lack of other major things going on.
Yeah, I love it. It's definitely a well put together card. I mean, we know how much we love UFC matchmaking nowadays. And yeah, they really nailed it. This card outside of those top two title fights doesn't have the name power, but man, if those fights don't deliver, that's crazy. You got Anders versus Khalil Roundtree, which is just violence. Alan Jouban versus Dwight Grant. Dwight Grant was the guy who knocked out Carlo Pedersoli Jr. With 1 second left in the first round in his last fight. So that's another banger, because Alan Jouban, I don't think he's ever been in a boring fight. Opened up the main card, he got OSP versus Nikita Krylov, which is great. So,
well,
I mean, it's OSP, but
great.
Nikita Krylov, I mean, he pulled something out of him in the first fight where they met, where OSP got a Von Flue choke. So that's always good. Prelims, you got some good prelims in Jalen Turner versus Matt Frevola, Wilson Hayes versus Alexandre Pantoja, and Curtis Millender versus Bilal Muhammad, which is a fight of the night candidate. That's just a really, really good fight. I love that matchup there. So what else sticks out to you on this card?
Yeah, I think those are kind of the main ones for me. Also, Brandon Davis, former featherweight, making his bantamweight debut against Randy Costa, who I think is making his
UFC debut. Yeah, he's 4-0. So this is an early debut for him.
So that'll be interesting. Brandon Davis is a fun guy. He's the guy that fought Austin on the Contender Series and is all action, just always throwing. That's never not moving forward and throwing strikes. So he's fun. Also, that Montel Jackson Andre Sukumtath fight. That's a fun one at bantamweight on the Fight Pass. Pretty solid Fight Pass card on this one. Not gonna lie, especially with Millender Muhammad on there. But also Max Griffin against Salim Imadaev.
Yep.
Imadaev. I don't know. Max Griffin's fighting, so excited for that. He's been on throwing elbows before, so got to root for him. But yeah, Jalen Turner also steps out to me, or shines on this one at lightweight. He could be really, really fun.
Yeah.
And Matt Frevola, he's tough too. So definitely some interesting stuff. Just still kind of just lacking the name power, but it should be. There's plenty on there, plenty of good fun stuff to get you fine all the way up until that co-main event and main event, because this is fun. I think I might take this over 235, and I guess we'll see after it happens. And John Jones, that was pretty fun, but I think I might take this over 235 at this point for my card of the year.
Those top two fights are tough to beat. Like that you can't really get much better than that for a main and co-main event. And it's also the first full ESPN pay-per-view, so it'll be interesting to see how all of that is handled. See if
there's any changes, or see if we end up getting pay-per-view numbers, or see how all that goes as well.
And before we wrap up, just gotta say one thing: Boston Salmon. All right, that's it. So
You just you open the show and close the show just fucking on highs. Like we make sure that we bring you in hot and we send you out on a good note.
Yes.
Like you did watch WrestleMania. You did. Yeah, you're learning from Vince. You're starting the show hot. You're leaving the fans happy. You're doing it.
I guess so. Yeah, I'm a new WWE writer. So you can catch our written work on CagesidePress.com, on Twitter @ThrowinElbows, iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. Throwin Elbows MMA. Same day, same place next week. We are out.
Peace, people.